In the bustling town of Nkalagu, Obinna was a man of immense wealth and influence. Known for his wisdom and generosity, he had risen from the ashes of his humble beginnings to become one of the wealthiest traders in the region. He was a man of noble heart, always willing to extend a hand to those in need. One fateful day, while visiting the outskirts of town, he encountered a struggling family in dire poverty. Among them was Nneka, a beautiful yet desperate woman who seemed like a trapped bird yearning for freedom. Obinna's heart went out to them. They were destitute, with nothing to their name but the hope that one day things might change. Nneka's family had been ravaged by illness and the death of the patriarch, leaving them stranded in the unforgiving grip of poverty. Obinna, seeing the sorrow in Nneka's eyes, decided to intervene. He lifted their family from the dirt, providing them with food, shelter, and more importantly, dignity. It was during this time that Nneka and Obinna grew close, and he fell deeply in love with her. His love was pure, unconditional, and rooted in the hope of a shared future. Nneka, seeing the wealth and power Obinna held, did not hesitate when he asked for her hand in marriage. She accepted, not out of love, but out of gratitude and the promise of a life she had never dared dream of. Obinna, blinded by his feelings, never saw her true intentions. To him, she was the light in his life, and together they built a home, a family, and a life that seemed perfect on the surface. As time went on, Nneka grew accustomed to the luxury and prestige that came with being Obinna's wife. She basked in the admiration of the townspeople, her new status elevating her far beyond what she ever imagined. She enjoyed the jewels, the fine clothes, and the constant attention. However, deep inside, she had never truly loved Obinna. Her heart was hardened by the greed that had been born out of her years of suffering. While Obinna remained kind and giving, Nneka's true nature began to show. She had an insatiable appetite for more wealth, more attention, more of everything that came with the life Obinna had provided. But for her, Obinna had become a mere tool to maintain her standing in society. She started entertaining other men in secret, attracted to their charm and the thrill of something new, all while Obinna remained oblivious, too trusting to ever suspect her. One day, a handsome young trader named Chuka arrived in Nkalagu. He was everything Nneka desired, charming, confident, and wealthy in his own right. The spark between them was immediate, and soon Nneka found herself entangled in an affair with Chuka, a man who offered her excitement and passion, things Obinna no longer gave her in her eyes. With Chuka, Nneka felt alive, but her betrayal of Obinna was just beginning. Obinna's wealth began to dwindle. A series of misfortunes struck his trade, and no matter how hard he tried to hold on to his empire, it began to crumble. One deal after another fell through, and soon he found himself losing everything he had worked so hard for. Worse still, a mysterious illness overtook him, rendering him blind. It was as though fate had conspired against him, stripping him of his sight and his fortune in one fell swoop. Nneka, once so enamored with the luxury and comfort Obinna provided, began to grow restless. The man she once admired for his wealth and power had become a shell of himself. She no longer saw the man who had lifted her family out of poverty. Instead, she saw a burden, a man who could no longer give her what she craved. Her disdain for him grew with each passing day, and her affair with Chuka intensified. Obinna, blind and weakened by his illness, still held on to hope. He believed that with Nneka by his side, he could rebuild his life. But he was wrong. Nneka's heart had long turned cold. She despised him for his weakness, for his failure, and most of all for the fact that he was no longer the man who had given her everything. One night, As Obinna lay in their once grand home, he overheard Nneka speaking to someone in hushed tones. His heart raced as he recognized the voice of Chuka, the man he had once trusted as a fellow trader. Their words cut through him like a knife. "He's nothing now, Nneka," Chuka said. "A blind man with no fortune. Leave him and come with me. Together we can have the life you've always dreamed of." Nneka hesitated for only a moment before replying, "You're right. He gave me nothing but pity and obligation. I'm done being tied to a blind beggar." Obinna's heart shattered. He realized that the woman he had loved and sacrificed everything for had never truly cared for him. Betrayal weighed heavy on his chest, and in that moment he knew his life with Nneka was over. Nneka did not wait long after that conversation. In the dead of night, she packed her belongings and left Obinna alone in the dark, both literally and figuratively. With Chuka by her side, she vanished from Nkalagu, leaving Obinna to fend for himself. Alone and blind, Obinna was devastated, but his spirit, though broken, was not defeated. He called upon the wisdom of his ancestors, praying for strength and guidance. His sight may have been taken from him, but his heart still beat with the will to survive. His journey into the unknown began as he sought solace in the faraway hills, where whispers of ancient wisdom and hidden strength awaited. Obinna, now blind and abandoned, wandered the dusty roads of Nkalagu. His once strong body, now weak and frail, struggled to carry him through the terrain. The town that had once admired and respected him now turned its back, whispering behind his back about his fall from grace. Even those he had once helped avoided him, unwilling to be associated with a blind beggar. His days were filled with emptiness, as the silence of his now solitary life was pierced only by the occasional cry of wild animals or the rustling of leaves in the wind. But Obinna did not give in to despair. He clung to the faint hope that his ancestors were watching over him. Each night he would sit beneath the stars, praying for a sign, something to show him that his life was not over. One fateful day, as Obinna rested beneath a large iroko tree, an old woman approached him. Her voice was soft, but it carried an otherworldly wisdom. "You seek answers, child of the earth. You have lost more than your sight, but the heart you still carry beats with strength. Do you wish to reclaim what has been taken from you?" Obinna, startled by the woman's presence, struggled to respond. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice trembling. "I am Nedi, the one who speaks with the spirits of the land," she replied. "Your suffering has not gone unnoticed. The spirits have sent me to guide you on your journey." Obinna, though skeptical, felt a glimmer of hope ignite within him. He had nothing left to lose, and so he agreed to follow Nedi. With her guidance, he embarked on a journey deep into the heart of the forest, where the spirits of the ancestors dwelled. The path through the forest was treacherous. The trees seemed to whisper Obinna's name, as if the spirits were watching his every step. Nedi led him to a hidden grove, where the air felt thick with ancient power. In the center of the grove stood a circle of stones, each one etched with markings that seemed to pulse with life. "You will face 3 trials," Nedi said, her voice echoing through the clearing. "Each one will test your spirit, your strength, and your heart. If you succeed, the ancestors will grant you the power to see beyond sight. But if you fail, you will remain in darkness forever." Obinna nodded, his resolve hardening. He could not turn back now. He stepped into the circle of stones, and the first trial began. Suddenly the grove vanished, and Obinna found himself standing in the marketplace of Nkalagu. But this was not the bustling market he remembered. It was empty, save for one figure in the distance, Nneka. She stood with her back to him, her figure shrouded in mist. As Obinna called out to her, she turned around, and he saw her face twisted in anger and regret. "You were never enough," she spat. "I loved you only for what you could give me. Now you have nothing. You are nothing." Her words cut deep, but Obinna did not falter. He knew this was the test of his heart. He had to forgive, even though the betrayal still stung. "I forgive you, Nneka," he said, his voice steady. "I release you from my heart." As he spoke, Nneka's figure dissolved into mist, and the marketplace faded away. Obinna's heart felt lighter, as though a great weight had been lifted. The test of strength. The second trial was one of endurance. Obinna found himself in a vast desert, the sun scorching his skin as he walked across the endless dunes. His body was weak, but he could not stop. He knew that if he gave in to the heat, he would never reach his destination. As he trudged through the sand, he heard the voice of Chuka mocking him from afar. "You were always too weak, Obinna. You couldn't hold on to your fortune, your sight, or your wife. You failed." The words echoed in his mind, but Obinna pushed forward. His legs trembled, his throat was parched, but he refused to give up. With each step he grew stronger, his resolve unbreakable. He knew that strength was not just physical, but also the will to keep going in the face of insurmountable odds. At last, he reached the top of a towering dune, and the desert melted away. He had passed the second trial. Chapter 9. The